For most spacefaring civilizations, oxygen was classified as a reactive hazard. It corroded tissues, accelerated cellular decay, and shortened lifespans. Water was worse, a solvent capable of dissolving organic structures, disrupting biochemistry, and killing unprotected organisms in minutes. And yet, on a small blue world orbiting an unremarkable yellow star, an entire species evolved breathing oxygen, drinking water, and calling both life. That contradiction was the first mistake the Cathari Dominion made when they encountered humans. The human mining vessel Horizon Breaker was operating in a remote asteroid field when it was intercepted. The Cathari had no intention of conquest or diplomacy. Humans were simply another labor species, biologically weak by galactic standards, useful only until they failed. The miners were captured with minimal resistance, restrained, and transferred aboard the Cathari flagship under the assumption that exposure to Kisari atmospheric conditions would render them compliant within hours. It did not. Instead of panic or respiratory collapse, the humans adjusted. Their breathing changed subtly, their heart rates increased, and within minutes, their bodies compensated for the thinner air. They complained about the cold, joked about the lighting, and asked for food. Not specialized nutrient gel, not regulated supplements, just food. Something solid, something warm. Dr. Vesco, the ship's senior xenobiologist, observed them from behind a transparent barrier with growing confusion. According to every model he knew, human biology should have been degrading. Instead, their cellular activity increased. Oxygen saturation rose. Stress markers spiked briefly, then stabilized. It was not resistance. It was adaptation. The Cathari had evolved in controlled environments, stable atmospheres, predictable ecosystems. They refined efficiency, not resilience. Humans, on the other hand, came from a planet that punished weakness relentlessly. Extreme temperatures, shifting climates, microbial threats, gravity heavy enough to damage joints, and an atmosphere slowly oxidizing them from birth. Earth did not preserve life. It tested it constantly. When water was provided to the humans as part of an observation trial, Veshkul expected visible distress. Water was a known biological solvent. Instead, the humans consumed it eagerly, requesting more. Their hydration levels improved. Their cognitive responses sharpened. One subject even laughed, commenting that it tasted recycled. That was when Veshkul began to understand that humans did not merely tolerate hostile conditions. Their entire biology was built around turning long-term damage into manageable survival. The true revelation came during a reactor malfunction. A coolant failure triggered a rapid thermal rise in the ship's core. Cathari physiology could not tolerate sudden heat spikes. Panic spread. Evacuation protocols were initiated, but before containment fields could fully deploy, the human miners had already acted. Without orders, without understanding the alien technology in detail, they relied on pattern recognition, mechanical intuition, and experience gained from decades of hazardous labor. They rerouted coolant manually. They stabilized pressure using physical force where automation failed. They exposed themselves to radiation levels that would have been fatal to most species, and treated it as an acceptable risk, not because they were fearless, but because risk management was ingrained into them. Danger was not a shock. It was a calculation. When the reactors stabilized, the Cathari crew stood in silence, watching a group of supposedly fragile organisms save a ship designed by minds far more advanced than their own. Veshkul reviewed the data for hours afterward. Human tissues showed stress damage, microfractures, and elevated toxin absorption. But alongside the damage was accelerated repair, redundant systems compensating for failure, pain responses that did not prevent function, psychological resilience reinforced by social cohesion and humor. Humans did not avoid harm. They endured it, learned from it, and continued forward. When asked why they intervened to save the ship, the humans offered no heroic explanation. They simply stated that broken systems needed fixing, and leaving others to die was unacceptable. To the Cathari, this was perhaps the most unsettling trait of all. Strength could be measured. Intelligence could be anticipated. But a species that combined extreme resilience with empathy was unpredictable on a galactic scale. The miners were returned to their vessel with formal apologies and unrestricted departure. No demands were made, no conditions imposed. The Kaithari Dominion, for the first time in its history, chose caution over control. Later, Veskil published his findings under a title that spread rapidly through scientific and military circles alike: the Oxygen Myth. In it, he concluded that humanity's greatest advantage was not their physical strength or technological potential, but their evolutionary relationship with adversity. Humans were shaped by a world that tried to kill them slowly, and they adapted, not by becoming invincible, but by becoming unyielding. They breathed what others feared. They drank what others avoided. They laughed under pressure, bonded under stress, and repaired what was broken even when it was not theirs to fix. And for the rest of the galaxy, one truth became clear. Any species capable of surviving Earth did not need to prove its dominance. It had already earned it.